All right, we have a new guest now. We're moving on. I'll take your line since you won't read it. With us now, Republican representative from Indiana and chairman of the House Republican Conference, Congressman Mike Pence. He's also chairman of the American Energy Solutions Group, which will introduce the House GOP's answer to the nation's energy problem in a bill later today. And Morning Joe has an exclusive look at the details.
Hey, I'm going to ask him a question first about PAYGO. Yeah. I laughed this morning when I heard the president talking about fiscal responsibility. I support PAYGO. I'm sure you support PAYGO. But as Dylan Radigan said, the cow's already out of the barn.
Well, that's right, Joe. I really do believe there is a little bit of symmetry here between the issue of PAYGO and the energy legislation that Republicans are going to be introducing today, because what the Democrats have and are planning to bring to the floor this month is essentially a national energy tax. This so-called cap and trade bill is just a means of paying for all of the runaway federal spending that we've seen under the last administration, and then it's redoubled and increased and kind of.
Can you explain that? Because we hear about cap and trade. Break it down for us as simply as you can. What does that mean for Americans and their energy costs?
Well, what it means, all in the name of climate change, there's going to be this new regime of limiting carbon emissions from all different sources of energy production in this country. But I don't think you need to look any further than the president himself, Joe, who literally said that if his cap and trade proposal were to pass, that utility rates, his words now, would, quote, necessarily skyrocket. John Dingell of Michigan in the Commerce Committee said people don't realize this is a tax and a, quote, great big one. Republicans today are going to unveil a plan that takes us in the direction of energy independence.
Okay, so power bills again. Trying to break this down. So where people would mainly feel it is in their power bills every month.
Well, that's where they would mainly feel it. Places like Indiana, where I'm from, would see a potential doubling of their utility rates. But also, remember, the cost of energy goes into virtually every product that we consume. And so, this national energy tax, according to some estimates, could mean additional energy costs across the board of some $3,000 or more per year per household. We have a better way. We have a better solution. We're going to unveil it this morning. I'm glad to do so exclusively here on Morning Joe, but it's going to be the Republicans' all of the above strategy. We're going to say yes to giving the American people more access to American oil, more domestic exploration for natural gas and coal. We're going to say yes to renewables like wind and solar, and we're going to say a deafening yes to nuclear energy. We're going to commit this country, or call on this country, to build 100 new nuclear power plants in the next 20 years.
Does your plan invest in alternative energy sources? Because obviously we're not there yet, and the federal government may need to step in and get involved in helping the private sector.
It really does, Joe. One of the things that we do is we want to capture some of those revenues from offshore drilling and put it into a renewable trust fund that'll be available to invest in the development of alternative and renewable sources of energy. We just don't need to pass legislation like cap and trade that's going to amount to a national energy tax, going to harm our economy at a time, quite frankly, when every American small business is struggling to make ends meet. There's a better way. Republicans are going to outline that today, and I have a feeling, I just have a gut feeling that there's a lot of concern, even among many Democrats on Capitol Hill, about the national energy tax. They're looking for a better solution. And I believe the American Energy Act we'll introduce today will be that.
Well, I think, Congressman, I think you're exactly right. A lot of Democrats are concerned. A lot of Republicans, though, I know are concerned about the way we use energy in this country. I mean, do you agree with me and a lot of conservatives that there's nothing conservative about a country that's got 4% of the world's population expending 25% of the world's energy resources?
Well, percentages I don't get as concerned about as the notion that, appears. And Joe, you served on that House floor with great distinction. Remember that quote up on the wall by, I think it's by Daniel Webster, that speaks about the resources of this country, the natural resources of this country, the genius of this country. He said, let us call forth this nation's power. part of that power is innovation. Part of that power is finding alternative sources of energy like wind and solar and nuclear.
Right.
But that power is also those, oil and coal and natural gas and clean coal technologies. We just don't need to pass the Democrat cap-and-trade plan that'll raise the cost of energy.
Well,
we can answer it with innovation and alternatives, and that's the Republican solution.
And Mike, Teddy Roosevelt, of course, also talked a lot about conservation. That's
right.
something that we can do right now.
That's right.
Is that part of your package, too?
Oh, we're going to be
we conserve energy resources?
That's exactly right. You know, you're one of my favorite Teddy Roosevelt Republicans, Joe, and we're going to make a real commitment to conservation in this legislation. But remember, the national energy tax is all about paying for all this spending. People should see it as no other way.
Okay.
They want to pass a national energy tax so you pay and they go on spending. That's the real pay-go. Republicans have a better solution, and we're looking forward to showing it to the American people
Well,
today.
thank you for coming here and talking about it first. Congressman Pence, thank you so much.
Thanks,
Greatly
Congressman.
appreciate it.
Coming up next.
Really quickly, the president and the Democrats have two issues before them now. Trying to pass health care with deficits exploding and Americans getting really, really concerned about it. And two, and you heard the congressman say this, obviously they're hearing this a lot, national energy tax, national energy tax. Obviously, this is going to be unpopular with an awful lot of people, including Democrats like John Dingell. I bet they pull back on that.
I don't know. I think Claire McCaskill hit it on the head. We're in a lot of situations that will either be solved by way of crisis, the way we solved our banking system last fall, which went pretty well.
That
was sort of just ran it into the ground and dropped a few trillion.
Then we had to fix it.
And then we had to fix it.
Right.
That's option A.
Yeah.
Or option B is to actually try to elevate the quality of our both process and ethics and decision making and the decisions along the way.
Don't we
And
usually go with A?
We usually go with A.
Next.
Usually go with A.
There's Europe. It's interesting. Conservatives are making gains in Europe, and one place where they're gaining an edge in elections seems to be England. The New York Times London bureau chief John Burns will be with us when Morning Joe continues.